smiled as I placed the last candle on our dining table. Perfect, I whispered. 10 years of marriage deserve something simple but meaningful. Emily always said our happiest moments came from quiet evenings together. I checked the clock and smiled. She'll be here any minute. The front door opened. Happy anniversary, I said, walking toward her with open arms. She forced a small smile. Thanks. You look tired. Sit down. I cooked everything you love. She glanced at the table, but never sat. Daniel, we need to talk. My stomach tightened. Can it wait until after dinner? No. Her voice sounded calm, almost rehearsed. What happened? I asked. She took a slow breath. I've been thinking for months. Thinking about what? About us. I laughed nervously. Every couple has rough days. This isn't about rough days. Then tell me. She looked straight into my eyes. I don't feel happy anymore. The room suddenly felt colder than before. Stared at her, hoping she would smile and say it was only stress. What do you mean? I asked quietly. Emily folded her arms. I've changed, Daniel. We both changed. That's what marriage is. She slowly shook her head. I feel trapped. Trapped, I repeated. By me. Not just by you. By this life. The routines. The responsibilities. I don't even know who I am anymore. I stepped closer. Then we'll fix it together. We can travel. Take a break. Go to counseling. Just tell me what you need. I need freedom. The word hit harder than a punch. You already have freedom, I said. I've never stopped you from chasing your dreams. This is different. Then help me understand. She looked away before answering. I need to discover myself without being someone's wife. My heart pounded. You can't mean that. Ido. Every dream I had built over 10 years suddenly felt like it was slipping through my fingers. Felt my chest tighten as I searched her face for even the smallest sign of doubt. Emily, please, I whispered. Don't throw away 10 years because you're confused. I'm not confused, she replied. I've never been more certain. What about us? What about every promise we made? They were real when I made them. Were? I asked. She lowered her eyes. People change. I shook my head. Marriage isn't something you walk away from when life becomes difficult. This isn't only about marriage. Then what is it about? She took a deep breath before speaking. I want a divorce. The words echoed inside my head until everything else disappeared. No, I said immediately. You don't mean that. Ido. We can fix this. I don't want to fix it. I stepped backward, unable to believe what I was hearing. So you've already made your decision? She nodded once. Yes. At that moment, my world broke apart without making a single sound. Before I could answer, I heard small footsteps behind us. Daddy. Sophie's trembling voice filled the silence. Why are you yelling? I turned and saw tears already forming in her eyes. I forced a smile. Sweetheart, everything is okay. She looked at me, then at Emily. Mommy, are you leaving? Emily closed her eyes for a second, but said nothing. Sophie ran to me and hugged my waist. Please don't fight. My heart shattered. We're trying to talk, I said softly. I don't want you to talk, Sophie cried. I want us together. Emily finally spoke. Sophie, I love you. Then stay, Sophie begged. The room became painfully quiet. I reached for Emily's hand. Please, look at her daughter. We can still save this. She slowly pulled her hand away. I'm sorry. Sophie buried her face against me, crying harder. I held her tightly, wishing I could protect her from a pain I could no longer stop. Emily quietly picked up her purse and looked at Sophie one last time. I'll call you tomorrow, she whispered. I wanted to stop her, but no words came. The front door closed, and the silence felt heavier than any scream. Sophie cried herself to sleep in my arms while I sat beside her bed, staring at the family photo on the nightstand. Where did I fail? I whispered to myself. Hours passed before I finally walked into our bedroom. I hoped to find some sign that she would come back in the morning. Instead, I opened the closet and froze. One entire side was empty. My hands began to shake. I knelt and pulled a suitcase from beneath the bed. It was gone. Then I noticed another suitcase hidden behind the dresser. I unzipped it slowly. Inside were neatly folded clothes, important documents, and her passport. She had packed everything days ago. Our anniversary dinner had never been her goodbye. It had only been my discovery. I sat across from Grace in her quiet office, staring at the untouched cup of coffee between us. She sighed. Daniel, are you absolutely sure there's nothing left to save? I asked Emily to try counseling, I replied. She refused. Grace folded her hands. Sometimes people give up before they admit why. I still don't understand what changed. She looked at me with gentle eyes. My job is to protect you now, even if I hate preparing these papers. I never imagined asking my best friend for a divorce. You didn't, she said softly. She did. The words hurt because they were true. Grace opened a folder. These are the first documents. I stared at the pages without touching them. If I sign, I whispered, everything we've built together begins to disappear. Grace nodded slowly. Only on paper, she replied. What you learned, your memories, and your dignity are still yours. I wish believing her were easier than breathing. Met Emily in Grace's conference room 2 days later. She arrived exactly on time and never looked into my eyes. Grace cleared her throat. We can still pause these proceedings if both of you agree to counseling. Emily answered before I could speak. I don't want counseling. I want this finished quickly. I leaned forward. Emily, are you really giving up without one honest conversation? We've already talked enough. No, you've talked. I listened. She folded her arms. Dragging this out won't help anyone. What about Sophie? I asked. She still asks why you don't come home every night. Emily looked down for a moment. I'll always be her mother. I know, I said quietly. But she still needs both of us. Silence filled the room. Grace closed the folder. We'll continue when you're ready. Emily stood immediately. I'm ready now. I watched her walk toward the door, wondering why goodbye seemed so easy for her. After Emily left, I drove home with my head full of questions. That evening, I opened our joint bank account to prepare my financial records. Something immediately felt wrong. Several large transfers had been made during the past 3 months. I frowned. How did I miss these? I checked the details again. Expensive restaurant bills, luxury hotel payments, designer clothing stores. None of them looked familiar. I called Emily. Can we talk about these transactions? I asked. They're my personal expenses, she replied. They came from our shared account. I'll explain everything during the settlement. Why not now? Because I don't owe you another argument. The call ended before I could answer. I stared at the screen, feeling another piece of trust disappear. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe there wasn't. For the first time, I wondered whether our marriage had been falling apart long before I ever noticed the cracks. The next afternoon, Sophie sat beside me on the living room floor, holding her favorite stuffed rabbit. Dad, when is Mom coming home? She asked. I swallowed hard. She has her own place for now, sweetheart. Did I do something bad? I quickly shook my head. Never. None of this is your fault. Then why can't we all live together again? I pulled her into my arms. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that children don't understand. She looked at me with watery eyes. Do you still love Mom? I'll always care about her. Does she still love you? The question stole my voice. I don't know, I admitted quietly. Sophie rested her head against my shoulder. I just want my family back. So do I whispered. I held her tightly, wishing love alone could repair everything we had lost, yet knowing some broken promises could never be made whole again. The following morning, I visited my father before returning to Grace's office. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Son, love cannot survive when only one person keeps fighting. I don't want to lose my family. You already lost the marriage the day she stopped standing beside you. His words stayed with me all morning. When I reached Grace's office, she quietly slid the final papers across the table. You don't have to rush, she said. I took a long breath. I've already spent months hoping she would change her mind. My hand trembled as I signed my name. Grace closed the folder gently. It's finished. I nodded, unable to speak. I believed I had reached the end of the hardest chapter of my life. I thought the divorce was the deepest wound Emily could leave behind. I was completely wrong. Some painful truths were still hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy everything I believed about our marriage forever. Several weeks passed before I finally stopped checking my phone every hour. One Saturday, I took Sophie to the park. She ran toward the swings while I sat on a nearby bench. My phone buzzed. Daniel, is that really you? My old coworker Mark asked as he approached. Mark, it's been a while. He smiled awkwardly. I almost didn't recognize you. We talked for a minute before his expression changed. I probably shouldn't ask this, he said, but are you and Emily doing better? I looked away. We're divorced. His face turned pale. I didn't know. What makes you ask? He hesitated. I've seen her several times downtown. Alone. He shifted uneasily. No. Who was with her? He lowered his voice. A man named Ethan Brooks. The name meant nothing to me. Are you sure? Mark nodded slowly. They looked close. Something inside me suddenly refused to stay silent anymore. I forced myself to stay calm after Mark walked away, but questions fill my mind. Dad, push me higher. Sophie shouted. I smiled and pushed the swing gently. Is this high enough? She laughed. Higher. Her smile reminded me that I could not let my anger control me. That evening, I called Grace. Can we meet tomorrow? I asked. Of course, she replied. What happened? I heard a name today. Ethan Brooks. She became quiet. Grace. I've heard that name before. From Emily? No, from another client. What does that mean? It means you shouldn't jump to conclusions. I need the truth. And you'll find it, she said calmly. But don't let rumors decide your future. I feel like I've been blind. You trusted your wife. That isn't blindness. I closed my eyes. What if she was seeing him before she asked for the divorce? Grace answered softly. Then the evidence will speak for itself. Be patient, Daniel. The truth always leaves footprints. The next afternoon, I stopped by a small cafe near my office to clear my head. As I waited for my coffee, someone called my name. Daniel. I turned and recognized Rachel, one of Emily's former co-workers. It's been forever, she said. It has. She smiled politely before asking, How's Emily? I hesitated. We're divorced. Her smile disappeared. I didn't know. Did you know Ethan Brooks? She looked surprised. Yes. How? They worked together on several charity events. I leaned closer. Were they just co-workers? Rachel bit her lip. I don't like gossip. I'm not asking for gossip. I need honesty. She sighed. I noticed them having private lunches months ago. Months before the divorce. She nodded slowly. They acted careful, but people noticed. My hands tightened around the coffee cup. So I wasn't imagining the distance between us. Rachel lowered her eyes. I'm sorry, Daniel. For the first time, my heartbreak began changing into painful, undeniable clarity. The next morning, I visited Grace's office and placed the information on her desk. I think Emily was with Ethan before our divorce, I said. Grace looked at the papers silently. Daniel, are you sure you want to know everything? She asked. Yes. I need the truth, even if it hurts. She nodded. Then prepare yourself. The truth can be painful. I stared at the evidence again. I spent so long blaming myself. You thought you failed as a husband, Grace said. But sometimes people leave because they already chose another path. Her words hurt because they made sense. What should I do now? I asked. Don't destroy yourself trying to destroy them, Grace replied. Focus on Sophie, your career, and the future you can build. I took a deep breath. I won't give Emily the power to ruin me. Grace smiled slightly. That's the Daniel I know. That night, I made a promise to myself that I would rebuild my life without revenge controlling my heart or my decisions anymore from then. The next few days, I stopped searching for answers about Emily and started searching for myself. I returned my focus to work and spent more time with Sophie. Daniel, are you happy again? Sophie asked one evening. I smiled and replied, I am learning to be happy again. She held my hand. Dad, I like when you smile. Her words reminded me why I needed to move forward. I still carried pain from Emily's betrayal, but I no longer carried blame for choices I never made. Emily believed I knew nothing and continued living as if her decisions had no consequences. But I knew something she did not understand. Silence was not weakness. I did not need public revenge or angry words to prove my worth. I needed to become stronger for myself and for Sophie. Grace was right. The truth always revealed itself eventually. And when that day came, I wanted to stand proudly knowing I had rebuilt my life without losing the kindness that made me who I was and finally found peace beyond my deepest old wounds. I walked into Michael Turner's office, expecting another ordinary meeting about my company's future. I never expected my life to change that day. "Daniel, sit down," Michael said. I placed my folder on his desk. "I have the project estimates ready." He smiled. "I already reviewed them." "You did?" "Yes. Your design ideas are exactly what this redevelopment needs." I stayed quiet, unsure where he was going. Michael leaned forward. "I want you to lead the entire project." I looked at him in surprise. "Me? You? I appreciate that, but why trust me with something this large?" He smiled. "Because your work shows discipline. You don't just build structures. You understand people." Those words stayed with me. For months, I felt like I had lost everything. But hearing someone believe in my ability reminded me that my life was not ending. It was changing. "Thank you," I said. Michael nodded. "Now prove to yourself what I already see." I returned home that evening carrying a feeling I had forgotten for months. My father noticed the change immediately. "You look different," he said. I smiled. Michael gave me a major opportunity. "Good, but that is not the only reason." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "You finally stopped looking like a man waiting for someone to return." His words hurt because they were true. I spent years trying to save something that only I was fighting for. My father nodded. "Son, loving someone is not wrong. Forgetting yourself is." I sat quietly beside him. "I keep wondering if I should have seen the signs earlier." "You cannot blame yourself for trusting the person you loved." I lower my head. "I feel foolish." "No," he replied. "You feel hurt. There is a difference." For the first time, I believed I could forgive myself. I knew my future would not be defined by pain Emily left behind in my heart. I woke up the next morning with a clear goal: rebuild my life one step at a time. I stopped checking Emily's messages and stopped wondering about her choices. My focus became Sophie and the project that could change my future. "You're smiling again," Sophie said when I picked her up for the weekend. "I am," I replied. "I have something important to build." She tilted her head. "Your buildings?" I laughed softly. "Not just buildings. A better life." She hugged me. "I like this version of you." Those words meant more than she knew. Later that night, I reviewed the project plans and felt proud again. Michael called me. "Daniel, I want you to know something. Your determination is why I chose you." I smiled. "Thank you for believing in me." He answered. "Keep moving forward," he said. "The strongest people are not those who never fall, but those who rise again." I ended the call feeling stronger than before because I finally understood that my story was beginning. A week later, I arrived at the redevelopment site and met Olivia Hayes for the first time. "Daniel Carter?" she asked while holding a notebook. "Yes, I'm Olivia. I'm covering the redevelopment project for the city magazine." I smiled politely. "Then I hope I can give you something interesting to write about." She laughed. "Most people say that when they want attention. I actually prefer letting my work speak." She looked at the plans in my hands. "I've heard your project is different." "Different how?" "People say you care about the purpose behind the design, not just the money." Her words surprised me. That's important to me. During the interview, she asked questions about my vision, my challenges, and my goals. For the first time in months, someone looked at me without seeing a broken man. She didn't ask about my divorce. She didn't offer sympathy. She simply respected my work. When I left that day, I realized something had changed. I was no longer defined by what I lost. Months passed, and I noticed something unexpected. Emily started seeing the changes in my life. One evening, she called me. "Daniel, you seem different," she said. I stayed quiet. "Different how?" I asked. "You don't seem angry anymore. You seem happy." I looked at the window before answering. I learned that my happiness cannot depend on someone else. She became silent. "I thought you would fight harder for us," she whispered. Her words surprised me. I fought when there was something left to save. I heard her breathe deeply. "So you really moved on?" she asked. "I'm moving forward," I replied. After the call ended, I returned to my project plans. I realized Emily finally saw the confidence I had rebuilt, but I no longer needed her approval. My future was no longer waiting for her decision. I had chosen myself and my daughter first. The pain remained, but it no longer controlled me because I had found my own strength. Heard about Emily moving in with Ethan from a mutual friend, but I forced myself not to react. "Are you okay?" Grace asked when we met for lunch. I looked at her and smiled. I'm learning to be. She studied my face. That means you still care. I lowered my eyes. I spent 10 years loving her, Grace. Feelings don't disappear because papers are signed. She nodded. I understand. But remember why you walked away. Edo. My phone buzzed. It was an invitation from Michael's company. Grace noticed my expression. Good news. I smiled. Our redevelopment project won another award nomination. See, she said, your life is moving forward. I wanted to believe that. Later that evening, I received a message from Sophie. Dad, can I stay with you this weekend? I called her immediately. Of course. Why wouldn't you? She became quiet. I just miss when things were normal. My heart hurt, but I answered carefully. We are creating a new normal, sweetheart. I hope I believe my own words. That weekend, Sophie stayed with me, and I noticed how much she had changed. Dad, can I help you cook? She asked. I smiled. You want to help? Yes. Mom always says I make a mess. I laughed softly. Making a mess is part of learning. She smiled. While we cooked, she suddenly asked, Does Ethan make Mom happy? I stopped for a moment. I don't know, Sophie. Do you like him? I carefully answered. What matters is that your mom makes her own choices. She looked confused. Are you angry with her? I took a deep breath. Sometimes I am. But being angry forever only hurts me. That night, after Sophie fell asleep, I reviewed my company's progress. The project was growing faster than I imagined. Michael called me. Daniel, congratulations. The board approved your design. Really? They want your team to present it nationally. I smiled. Months ago, I thought my life was ending. Now I was building something bigger than I ever expected. But a small part of me still wondered if Emily was truly happy. 2 weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number while reviewing project documents in my office. Hello, is this Daniel Carter? A woman asked. Yes. Who is this? My name is Lisa Brooks. I need to talk to you about Ethan. My heart immediately became cautious. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Emily deserves to know the truth, and you deserve to know who she chose, Lisa replied. I stayed silent. She continued. Ethan has done this before. He promised commitment, but betrayed people who trusted him. I felt anger rising, but controlled it. Do you have proof? I asked. Yes. I can show you everything. After the call ended, I sat there thinking about Emily. Part of me wanted to warn her immediately. Another part remembered the pain she caused me. Grace listened carefully when I told her. Don't act from anger, she advised. I don't want revenge, I said. I just don't want anyone else to get hurt. Grace nodded quietly. The truth will find its way out when the time is right. The next day, I met Lisa at a quiet cafe near my office. She placed a folder on the table and looked serious. Daniel, I know this is difficult, but you need to see this. I opened the folder and found messages, photos, and records showing Ethan's lies. I can't believe this, I whispered. Lisa sighed. He always makes people feel special until he gets what he wants. I closed the folder slowly. Why are you helping me? She looked away. Because I know what it feels like to trust the wrong person. Her words reminded me of my own pain. When I returned home, I stared at my phone for a long time. I could call Emily and tell her everything. But I stopped myself. She made her choice, I said quietly. My heart wanted to protect her, but my mind reminded me that I had already been hurt enough. Instead of chasing her mistakes, I focused on my future, my daughter, and the success I was building. For the first time, I chose peace over old pain. The day of the national award ceremony finally arrived, and I stood on stage watching my team celebrate our achievement. I remember the nights when I believed my life was falling apart. Michael shook my hand and said, Daniel, this success happened because you refused to give up. I smiled and replied, I almost forgot what I was capable of. After the ceremony, I received another message from Emily. Congratulations, she wrote. I heard about your success. I stared at the screen before putting my phone away. I no longer needed her approval to feel valuable. My company had grown, my relationship with Sophie was stronger, and I finally respected myself again. Emily once believed freedom meant leaving me behind. But I discovered true freedom meant finding myself after losing everything I thought I needed. The pain remained, but it no longer controlled me. I had survived betrayal and built a future with my own hands. I knew the hardest days were behind me because I was finally becoming the man I always wanted to become and proud of myself. The morning after the ceremony, I finally checked my phone and saw Emily's missed calls. I hesitated before calling back. "Daniel, please answer," she said when she picked up. Her voice sounded different. "What happened?" I asked. "About Ethan." I became silent. "Emily, are you okay?" "No," she whispered. "I made a terrible mistake." I sat down slowly. "What happened between you two?" She took a deep breath. "He lied to me. He used my money for his business and never planned the future he promised." I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to feel anger. Another part remembered the pain I suffered. "Daniel, I lost everything because of him," she cried. I looked at the award on my desk. My life had changed completely. The person who once left me behind was now facing the same emptiness I had survived. But I knew this moment was not about revenge anymore. It was about accepting that our choices always carry consequences, and I had finally grown. I listened as Emily continued explaining everything. "How could I be so wrong about him?" she asked. I stayed quiet for a moment. "Emily, I don't know what to say. I thought he understood me," she whispered. "I thought he gave me the freedom I needed." I looked outside my office window. Freedom was never the problem. "What do you mean? You wanted a different life, and you chose it. But happiness cannot be built on someone else's promises." She became silent. "Daniel, I know I hurt you." Those words surprised me. "I spent months wondering what I did wrong," I admitted. "You did nothing wrong," she replied softly. Hearing this should have made me happy, but it only reminded me of the pain I carried. "I hope you find peace, Emily. Can we talk in person?" I looked at my schedule filled with new responsibilities. "Not today." "Why?" "Because I spent so long waiting for you. Now I need to focus on the life I built without you." After the call ended, I sat quietly in my office. I expected to feel satisfaction, but I only felt sadness. Grace noticed my expression when she arrived. "Did Emily call?" she asked. I nodded. "She finally knows about Ethan." Grace placed her bag down. "How do you feel?" I looked at her. I thought I would feel happy when karma arrived. "And I don't." She smiled slightly. "Because you're not the same person you were months ago." I looked at the award sitting on my desk. I spent so much time wanting her to understand my pain. Now she does. "Yes, but it doesn't erase what happened." Grace nodded. "That is called healing." I took a deep breath. I don't want her suffering to become my happiness. "Good," Grace replied. "Because your happiness came from rebuilding yourself." Her words stayed with me. For the first time, I realized I had won something more important than revenge. I had won control over my own life again. A few days later, Emily called me again. "Daniel, please don't ignore me," she said. I closed my eyes before answering. "I'm listening." "I lost the person I thought loved me." Her words were painful to hear. "You lost more than that," I replied. "You lost yourself chasing something that wasn't real." She became quiet. "I thought leaving would make me happy." "I know. I thought you were the reason I felt trapped." I looked at the family photo on my desk. And now I realized I was running from someone who actually cared about me. I took a slow breath. "Emily, I cared about you. I still hope you find peace. Can we start over?" The question stayed between us. "I don't know if that is possible." "Why?" "Because some wounds heal, but they still leave scars." She started crying softly. "I understand." After the call ended, I felt sadness, but not anger. The life I built after losing her was stronger than the life I had before. The days after that conversation, I returned to work with a clearer heart. I no longer wondered if Emily would regret her choices. I focused on Sophie, my company, and the future I was creating. Michael called me that afternoon. "Daniel, your leadership changed everything," he said. "The project is now one of the most successful developments in the country." I smiled. "I couldn't have done it without my team." He replied, "Remember this. Your greatest achievement was not the award. It was finding yourself again." Those words stayed with me. Emily had searched for freedom outside our marriage, but I discovered freedom inside myself. The loneliness she gave me became the strength that rebuilt my life. I no longer needed her regret to feel valuable. I had learned that losing someone could hurt, but losing myself would have hurt more. My journey was not about revenge anymore. It was about growth, healing, and becoming the man I was always meant to be. I finally understood that I was free. Waited outside the small restaurant where Emily asked to meet me. I arrived early, not because I was nervous, but because old habits were difficult to break. For 10 years, I had been the man who waited for her. When she entered, I almost forgot how much had changed. She looked tired, not like the confident woman who walked away from our marriage believing she had found something better. "Daniel," she said softly. "Emily." She sat across from me and looked down. "Thank you for meeting me." I nodded. "You said it was important." "It is." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "I am sorry." Those words were ones I once dreamed of hearing, but hearing them now felt different. "Sorry for what?" I asked. "For everything. For leaving. For hurting you. For believing someone else could give me something you couldn't." I looked at her carefully. "Emily, you made your choice." "I know." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought I needed excitement. I thought I needed freedom. I confused those things with happiness." I stayed silent. I lost the person who truly loved me because I was chasing a feeling that never lasted. I felt pain hearing that because a part of me still remembered the woman I married. "Do you know how many nights I blamed myself?" I asked. She looked up. "I wonder what I did wrong. I wondered why I wasn't enough." "You were enough," she said quickly. "Then why did you leave?" She struggled to answer. "Because I was selfish." The honesty surprised me. I looked away for a moment. My heart wanted to forgive everything instantly. It remembered our first home, our daughter's first steps, and every promise we made. But my mind remembered the empty house, the divorce papers, and the nights when I questioned my own worth. "Emily, I forgive you." She looked shocked. "You do?" "Yes." A tear rolled down her face. "I thought you hated me." "I did hate what happened. I hated the pain. But carrying that hat." After I arrived at the restaurant where Emily wanted to meet me, I sat quietly and remembered how different my life had become. The man who once begged for another chance was no longer the same person. When Emily walked in, she looked nervous. "Daniel," she said softly, "thank you for coming." I nodded. "You said we needed to talk." She sat down and held her hands together. "I don't know where to start." "Start with the truth," I replied. She looked at me with sadness. "I made mistakes. I thought leaving would make me happier." I stayed silent because I wanted to hear everything she needed to say. I chased excitement and ignored the person who always stood beside me. Her voice broke. "I hurt you more than I realized." I looked away for a moment. The memories returned quickly, but I reminded myself that I had already survived the hardest days. I could listen to her pain without allowing my past to control my future anymore, because I had finally learned my own value and found inner peace. She looked down at the table and whispered, "I know I cannot undo the damage I caused." I nodded slowly. "The past cannot be changed." "Do you hate me?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "No, Emily, I don't hate you." "Then why does it feel like I lost everything?" she asked. I looked at her carefully. "Because sometimes we only understand what we had after we lose it." She wiped her tears. "I thought freedom meant leaving behind the life we built." "And what do you think now?" I asked. "I think I confused being free with being happy." Her answer hurt because it was the truth I had waited months to hear. "I wanted you to realize my worth before I broke." She looked away. "I should have realized it before I hurt you." I remained quiet. A part of me still cared about her, but another part knew that love could not erase betrayal. "I forgive you," I said again with honesty. "But I cannot pretend that everything can return to the way it was before." Emily looked at me with tears in her eyes. "So there's no chance for us?" I felt the weight of that question. For a moment, I remembered our wedding day, our first home, and the promises we made. My heart wanted to hold on to those memories. But I had learned something important. "Emily, I will always care about you." She lowered her eyes. "But caring is not enough anymore. I know I hurt you." "Yes, you did." She closed her eyes. "I wish I could go back. I wish things had been different too." The silence between us felt heavier than any argument we ever had. "I thought you would be happy seeing me regret everything," she whispered. "I wanted you to understand my pain. And now I just want peace." She nodded slowly. "You really changed." I had to. She stood up and picked up her bag. I lost the man who loved me because I didn't value him. I looked at her sadly. You lost a marriage, Emily. But I hope you find yourself. She smiled through tears. Goodbye, Daniel. Goodbye. Watched Emily walk away from the restaurant, and for the first time, I did not feel the urge to chase after her. Months ago, I would have done anything to stop that moment from happening. I would have begged. I would have apologized for things I never did. I would have tried to fix a broken relationship alone, but I was not that person anymore. I sat there quietly and realized something important. Forgiving Emily did not mean forgetting the pain. It did not mean accepting everything she did. It meant I was finally choosing my own peace. When I arrived home, Sophie ran toward me. Dad, how was your day? I smiled. It was difficult, but I think it was necessary. She hugged me. Are you okay? I held her tightly. Yes, sweetheart. I am. That night, I looked at my reflection and saw someone different. I had lost my marriage, but I had found my strength. Emily finally understood that some doors only open once, and some doors, once closed, should stay closed forever. I was ready for whatever came next.